Yours. Next game.
Alaykum Rahmatullahi Barakatu, everyone. So, Jazakumullahu khair, everyone, for coming in today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immensely bless each and every one of you in person and online. Inshallah ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll start with recitation from Surah Al-Fajr. This is the forenoon prayer from ayahs 15 to 20. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحضرون طعام المسكين وتأكلون وتحبون The ayahs that I've mentioned earlier are from ayahs 15 to 20 of Surah Al-Fajr, chapter 89 of the Holy Quran. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll be providing a translation and reflection of this passage. From chapter 89, ayah 15 and onwards, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, now whenever a human being is tested by their Lord through his generosity and blessings, they boast, my Lord has deservedly honored me, i.e., I was deserving of this honor from my Lord. But when he tests them by limiting their provision, they protest, my Lord has undeservedly humiliated me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kalla, absolutely not. La tukrimuna al-yatim. In fact, you are not even gracious to the orphan. Nor do you urge one another to feed the poor. And you devour others' inheritance greedily, i.e., taking over the inheritance of orphans and women. And love wealth fervently. And so you love wealth with much love. And this, for us, brothers and sisters, in person and online, it is important for us to reflect upon the importance of understanding not just wealth as a provision from Allah, but also a responsibility. And this is just amongst the few ni'mah that Allah has blessed us with. And so, as we are now in Orphan Sponsorship Program Month, it is important for each and every one of us to be able to really understand the trials that we face with our wealth, with our health, with our academics, with our social, family, personal lives. And it's important for us to really appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us with and to undermark the importance of taking care and being conscious and conscientious of our dear orphan brothers and sisters all over the world. So with this, inshallah ta'ala, I'll move forward with letting Sister Amber take the stage. Before I do, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow each and every one of us to benefit from what has been said in the Holy Quran. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be amongst those that love our dear orphan brothers and sisters more than wealth and all else. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakumullahu khair Katheera. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone, in person and online. Jazakallah khair for attending, and Jazakallah khair to Brother Muhammad Saeed for that recitation and reflection. If you don't know already, my name is Umber, and I am the current Academic Affairs Director at the Muslim Students Association at UTSC. And this panel is a collaboration with Brother Muhammad Saeed's organization, Our Golden Age. And we would like to thank our panelists for attending as well. Jazakallahu Khairan, Sister Maryam. We really, really appreciate your presence, even if it is online. We know that you have a lot of knowledge to give to us about how to be good people for the Ummah and help the Ummah in any way possible. So inshallah, unless anyone else from the MSA or OG would like to introduce themselves. No? Okay, great. Well, would we like to get started with Sister Maryam's introduction, and would you like to start your presentation, inshallah?
Assalamu alaikum. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Jazakallahu khair for having me. I'm really sad that I wasn't able to make it in person, but alhamdulillah, I'm really glad I was able to still attend virtually and be able to speak with you all. Would you like me to share the slides online, or do you want to, like, how would you want to do the slides?
Yes, inshallah, we'll make you co-host and you can share the slides.
I can give a quick background on myself really quickly. So my name is Maryam Hikmat. I have worked in a lot of Muslim charities. That's kind of my specialty. I've kind of gravitated towards this space, and it's become somewhat of a home for me now. So right now I'm working at Sakeena Canada as the Grants and Foundations Manager. And it's kind of been a bit of a journey. It's probably my 4th year into just working within the non-for-profit sector. And mashallah, every day, every job, I learn so much just in, my own skills, and also in what I can give back to the community, and how much work we do benefits people. And that's what I love so much about working in the non-for-profit sector. So inshallah, I'm looking forward to sharing just a bit of what I've learned over the few years I've been working. And then if there's any questions or anything you'd like some more information on, I'd love to chat and, see what everyone has to say.
Jazakallah khairan. Based on that, does anyone have any questions?
Any questions, brothers and sisters, online, in person? Time to start asking.
Yes.
How did you start?
That's a great question. I guess it kind of meshes into what my presentation was about. But I'll say I started through volunteering. So I was kind of like hesitant on how to involve myself in the Muslim community, and I'll explain a bit more later on in my presentation that I didn't go to a physical university or school like what you guys have. So I don't have, the welcoming community of the MSA, or like, sisters and brothers who are kind of on the same page as things. So I started volunteering at my local masjid. I'm sure you all know ISNA. And just from there, I spent, I would say, a couple months volunteering. That's how I got my first job. They were really impressed with my work, and alhamdulillah, I was able to just get my first job off of that. So I would say, I'll get into it a bit more later, but I would say like networking and volunteering has opened up such like a huge, like so much opportunity for me in my career. And I've seen it so much with like, my siblings who are also in the non-profit sector. Just kind of getting yourself out there and like showing your work and showing your work ethic through volunteering. It's such a fantastic way to like get work experience, and also to network with other people who might have businesses or organizations that are like-minded and something you want to work in. So that's definitely my advice if you're saying like, how do you get into this sector, or like what to do, how to kind of break into it, it's volunteering, networking. That's, you know, my biggest tip. So I can get started on the presentation if we're good to go.
We're good to go, inshallah.
Awesome. So it's not too long, but I just kind of wanted to go over my journey. It's a bit unconventional, I think, from the average person, but that's what I think is so amazing, because not everyone has the same experience. So I'll just say from elementary school and high school, I was completely homeschooled. My parents were very big advocates on us learning through experience, and also they had a very eventful life themselves. My father was a sheikh at a masjid, so our life was very geared towards the masjid and the community that our masjid had. So for us, homeschooling was the alternative that my parents had, instead of putting us into public school or secular school, because they wanted us to have that Islamic element entwined with our lives. So I was homeschooled by my mother and my siblings for my whole life, essentially. And then when I went into high school, they were all programs done with the government. So I was giving my certificates and my diplomas throughout. So I did high school online as well. And then once I graduated from high school, I kind of was at a crossroads where I didn't know what to do with myself. I know a lot of, you know, maybe you guys have picked your majors now, but a lot of people just don't know what to do after high school. So I was kind of I took a gap year and I wasn't sure what to do. So I joined a program called Al Huda, and they had an advanced certificate with Islamic studies. So I did that for about 6 to 9 months. I believe that was the advanced certificate. And once I completed that, I was back at the same crossroads where I was, you know, do I go to college? Do I go to university? What do I really do? And I ended up doing online college. It was before COVID, so it was before online school was cool. So I was kind of just figuring out what to do, and I took the least controversial topic, which was just basic business. And I did business administration in a 2-year diploma. And then at that point, I had graduated, and we was still peak COVID, had no idea what I was going to do with my time, no idea what was happening for my future. And I just started volunteering, like I had mentioned earlier. So I started volunteering with Sakeena Canada mainly, but I was also involved with Penny Appeal, Islamic Relief, a bunch of different organizations, just to get myself involved in the community. And that's where I really found opportunities for jobs. So a couple months into volunteering at Sakeena, it was Ramadan. I was very involved in the community. I made a lot of networking, made a lot of connections. And then there were a few job openings that Sakeena posted. I applied, and subhanAllah, they were very excited to have me on board. So they hired me, and I was working full time. And then as the years went on, I got some more experience in things. And then I was able to just keep moving to different jobs. So I'll just go over a brief employment history, I guess, with you all. So I started at Sakeena Canada as the fundraising coordinator as a summer position. And in that role, I was writing grants for different organizations that we could work with. And then I was also doing the fundraising with the masjid, which I would consider myself an introvert. So it wasn't the easiest thing for me. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But then I found I did have, you know, some talents and some experience in project management. So what happened was that my role got transferred over into the special projects coordinator, which was a lot more event planning, a lot more digital marketing and administration. And I really loved this position because I was able to work with the community. I was able to plan things like the Eid Carnival that hosted up to 10,000 people. We were able to host summer camps and winter camps for the youth. And that was where I found I really loved working with people. I loved working with youth. I loved working with the community. And this is where I found like, this is my space. So I worked at Sakeena for about a year. And then I moved on to my next role, which was at Muslim Hands Canada. And this role was a programs officer position. So it was a bit of local and international work. So locally, I was planning events like going to Muslim Fest for their booths, or RIS for their conventions. And then also doing the overseas project management, where we'd work with field offices to make sure supplies of like food and shelter and all this stuff were being built overseas with our partners. So it was a lot of, it was 2 roles essentially, and you had to balance both of them. And I think it also trained me a lot in how to be organized and how to work with different people. And mashallah, I really enjoyed my time at these two organizations. And then we'll move to my next position, which was with Seeds of Leadership. This is my previous job. I love Seeds. I have so much love and so much good things to say about Seeds. It's a youth leadership organization that focuses on the development of youth from the ages of 14 to 21. And I was working as their youth engagement lead, and I was later put into the senior marketing role. And for this role, I was doing retreat planning, I was doing graphic creation, I was making manuals, I was making a lot of more graphics, which was something that was kind of a hobby of mine, but I didn't think I was capable enough to make it a job. So this is where I kind of, at Seeds, I was able to like harness my abilities of graphic design and put that into work as well. And then there was obviously the element of the youth development and working with the youth, which was also amazing, just to, you know, be with them and learn from them and offer whatever I could offer. And then finally, I am where I am now. I'm the Grants and Foundations Manager at Sakeena Canada, and this is more of a quiet role compared to my previous 3 roles where I am writing grants and doing partnership development. It's not as exciting or high energy as the other 3 roles, but there's a lot of flexibility with this, and I feel that grant writing was a technical skill, and this is what I wanted to develop. So this is where I am now, and it's been 4 months. It's been an amazing 4 months so far, mashallah, and just knowing the work that I've been doing in the past 4 organizations have been helping other people is what really motivates me to continue in this field, because it's not just collect my paycheck, go home, spend my money on whatever I want. It's that the work I do is affecting our ummah, and it's affecting our community in a positive way. And that's the legacy I want to leave behind with my work. So that's just a quick synopsis of my employment history. Thank you so much for listening and paying attention. And if there's any questions or anything I could shed some light on, I'd love to talk.
All right. Jazakumullahu Khairan for that presentation. And Allahumma barik, you are definitely a very talented individual who has offered so much to the ummah, and you continue to offer so much to the ummah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward every second and every intention that you put towards the work that you do.
That's very sweet.
Any questions?
I feel like a lot of the work that we do in these organizations feels so much like, it feels so much just like hanging out with your friends or being involved in a fun retreat or a fun event. So it doesn't feel a lot of it like work. So I've been very fortunate that, you know, these kind of jobs allow me to be experiencing so many things. And like, that's what's amazing about the Muslim. I would say there's pros and cons, but what's one of the pros of this is that you get to wear so many hats under Muslim charities, because they do need kind of people to fill in where you can. So any talent or ability that you think, you know, you might not be great at or you would love to improve on, there's always space for it. So for example, like graphic design was just a hobby for me. And I didn't think I'd be able to like do something with it in a career way, which I really did want to. But I was able to, like at Seeds, I was able to harness that. Even at ISNA, I was doing some graphic design while we were hiring for a graphic designer. And I was able to just, you know, you take that initiative on. And you just present it as like, let me see what I can do. And yeah, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna fail, but that's about, you know, how you're learning, and that's how you grow as a person. So yeah, mashallah, it's been a really interesting journey for me as well. And I didn't think I'd be here, but alhamdulillah, like that's what's amazing about everyone's journey. Everyone has that specific, unique path that they take.
Alhamdulillah. And it was great to hear that you were at crossroads on multiple occasions, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always has a plan. And
Oh,
Allah
yeah.
subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. So just having tawakkul in him gives you so much hope and so much gratitude that now that you're here, you know, it was because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted you to be. And he's given you the
Absolutely, yeah.
ability to do all
And I
that you
remember,
do for the ummah.
yeah, I remember there were so many times where I was like, what am I doing with my life? I don't know what to go into. What am I gonna do with business? But you end up learning so much on the job, and I feel like experience is so much more important than what you study or you focus on, especially in the role of like non-for-profits and philanthropy. My older brother's quite experienced as well. He works at Penny Appeal. He's their director for Western Canada, and he has a BTech degree, so it's not even in the field, but he just has such a passion and such a love for like helping people and being on the ground and just like really putting all his energy and efforts into it, and you see it in his work. And that's what like really made him stand out to, you know, the managers and the superiors at Penny Appeal, and they were just so impressed with his work. So I think really it's like, it's that energy you bring in, and it's, you know, the initiative you're taking, and it truly, like, you'll find your journey just comes naturally and you can't really force it. So mashallah, like everyone's path is unique to them.
You're completely right. Alhamdulillah. I'm going to open up the floor to any questions. Yes.
Question. During Seeds of youth.
Seeds of leadership.
Seeds of leadership. How did you develop your leadership skills whilst working at that organization?
That's actually a fantastic question. I remember when I first started and I was working with our CEO had like sat with us and he kind of gave us the development plan that he had for the youth set out. And he was telling us like, I want you to focus on this and this with them. And I was sitting there and I genuinely asked him, I was like, I don't feel like I'm the right fit to be teaching these youth. I don't feel like I'm someone who's capable or like I have the right, I have the right experience myself. And he was telling us like, you're someone who cares. You're someone who's putting in the effort and you're going to try your best. And that's what matters. And you're almost guiding them. So a lot of it was like don't even know if I'm capable right now of like leading them essentially, but it was really a lot of it is you put in the effort and there was a lot of self-development we were doing while working at Seeds. So our CEO was very big on like always learning and always looking for the newest, upcoming thing. If it's AI, look into AI. If it's whatever is happening in the world, like just stay very on to current events. So with the youth, I was learning myself just with them, and any question I had, I would bring it up to our CEO, and he was very, very smart, mashallah. So he was able to kind of coach us through them. But a lot of it is just like when you put in your effort and you find like, oh, someone's having a difficulty with their teammate, I'm going to go find ways of like, how can I address this without, creating more challenge or more conflict with them. And then you end up learning. There's so much you take on in these roles that you end up developing yourself and you don't even realize it. And there's so much you learn from just dealing with them. So I'm very grateful for those kind of roles because like they learn from me and I learn from them, and it's we're just learning always from each other.
Jazakallahu khairan.
There's a
All
question
right.
here online from Taiba. And she's asking, what advice do you have for finding organizations that best align with your own values and assessing their reliability? That's a fantastic question. I kind of fell into this difficulty as well when I first started volunteering. You end up volunteering for everyone, and then you have to kind of set your sights on what can I put my efforts and time into, because you don't just have infinite amount of time. You do have a limited amount of time, and I'm sure, with school and exams, you can't just be doing everything. So I think it's really best to kind of scope out what your interests are or what your focus is. So for something like, there's a big gap in kind of where I've worked, and I can give that as an example. So like Seeds of Leadership focuses on youth development, but Sakeena Canada is a community center that works locally, and then Muslim Hands is a relief charity that works overseas. So you kind of want to set your scope to like, what do I want to focus on? Do I want to focus on helping those overseas? Do I want to focus on the youth development and like raising the next leaders of our ummah, that next generation that's coming up? Like, what is my focus? And do some research on them and find out like, what are their values? What do they care about? What's their focus? What's their religious core foundation? This is super important in my opinion. This is why I kind of stuck within the Muslim charities, because for me, it's so important on like the mission that they're putting out has to align with my values as a Muslim. So that's why I found these organizations, they kind of like, if you're working for 8 hours a day, you're going to be like eating, breathing, sleeping their mission. And if it doesn't align with, my beliefs, it's going to definitely take a hit on me emotionally and mentally. So it is really important to do your research, find who aligns with you, find out what scope you're interested in, and then go from there. And obviously you're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. You just keep going, you keep learning. And yeah, inshallah, you go and you find what's best for you.
Jazakallahu khairan for that response. So we will hold off for the rest of our Q&A session for after 7 p.m. After our Isha break, inshallah. And until then, I would like to welcome, or Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Fatah. Jazakallahu khairan for attending today. We really, really appreciate your presence. And you can get started on your introduction and your presentation, inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So sorry for joining late. I hope you enjoyed Sister Maryam's talk. So yeah, I'd like to get into, my presentation. I think I had a slide show. Yes. Yeah. And how it feels weird sitting like at this table. Can I stand at the podium? Yeah. Sorry about that.
You can have that mic as well.
Sure. Is there a way to like put on the? Okay, Jazakumullahu. Yeah. So, Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Fatah. As the sister mentioned, I am. I'll get into who I am, although I do recognize a lot of familiar faces here. So in this talk, I just hope that you leave with inspiration. If you haven't already left with inspiration after Sister Maryam's talk, to leave with inspiration to do humanitarian work, do aid relief work, or any philanthropic work that's within your capacity. You know, we all don't necessarily need to wait till like we're 40 or 50 or have millions of dollars to give back, right? We all have specialties, we have talents, we have you know, expertise in things that other people don't necessarily have expertise in, right? So there's always things and opportunities for us to give back. So that's kind of the. I just hope you'll leave away with that. So maybe as the slides are coming up, you know, I'll just talk about who I am. You know, I'm born and raised in Scarborough. I'm a UTSC alum. In terms of education, I studied health studies and psychology while I was here. In my day job, I'm a health system planner for something called an Ontario Health Team. It's like this new healthcare model that was established in 2019. And essentially what we do is we just try to unite and try to create a more integrated healthcare system. That's not where the humanitarian aid comes into play. You're probably thinking, okay, that's just like healthcare, public health type work. It really comes into play through my volunteer work, right? Through other initiatives and things that I've done alongside my career. So, you know, Sister Maryam gave you an example of how you can do this job. You know, I'm assuming 9 to 5, you know, a typical a job. But there's also ways that you can get involved without necessarily having to devote, you know, your career to this. Although it is definitely praiseworthy, and if it is something that you really do want to devote your career into, then go, you know, full. Don't just tip your toes in, right? Just go full all in. So yeah, so one of the things I wanted to include in my kind of general introduction is, okay, so now I kind of talked about what I do in my day job. I mentioned, okay, most of my kind of volunteering type efforts come into, maybe like 2 slides back, come into play through my volunteering. So what does that necessarily look like? So one of the things is we kind of have seen is, wait, I can control it. It's okay, I got it. Thank you. Just needed to press the buttons. So yeah, so I've done a lot of Charity Week. So one of the initiatives that I've been heavily involved in with is Charity Week. Any of you familiar with Charity Week? Hopefully everyone here is familiar with Charity Week, yeah? Okay, hopefully by the end of it, those who aren't familiar with it will be a bit more familiar with it. But I'll get into that in a bit. Some of the things I do on through volunteering is I work on some health research projects, health equity type projects. Also, I'm involved in supporting mentors through giving mentorship through a program called Somali Scholars. I also worked in politics for some time as well through a fellowship opportunity that I got at through something called the Muslim Youth Fellowship. And I've done race relations work, wellness education, so on and so forth. Other things, Charity Week. So I led a charity campaign called Charity Week. I used to teach swimming as well, and I enjoy traveling and podcasts. So that's just a picture of me in Umrah during Ramadan. I highly recommend it. This is actually Eid day. I don't dress like that often. So that's just like Eid day, and that's like in the Haram too. So I highly recommend for those who haven't had the opportunity to go, inshallah, because I was encouraged by a brother to go. So now hopefully I get the ajr for anyone who's inspired to go because of that picture. So, you know, maybe Sister Maryam covered this, but what are we talking about when we talk about humanitarian aid and philanthropy? That was in the title. When in a university institution, typically, you know, you kind of give a bit of a, you know, you set the stage, you set the scene with definitions, right? So when you talk about humanitarian aid, it's often short-term relief that you think of, right? So this is providing material goods, logistical assistance to those in need. So this can look like providing emergency food packages or providing emergency shelter or healthcare in a lot of disaster zones. And we've seen, you know, there hasn't been a year, has there been a year in the Muslim Ummah that's gone, where we've seen more tragedy in our lifetime. You know, many of you are young, so you probably don't have, you know, a long life to kind of pull examples from, but you have the floodings, you've had, of course, what's happening now in Gaza. You've had a ton of chaos. So I'm sure you've kind of been more informed about, you know, what goes into humanitarian relief or work, and also some of the barriers that are involved with being involved with humanitarian relief work, right? The danger zones and things like that. Philanthropy, when you think of philanthropy, sometimes you might think of certain foundations, you know, that come to mind, whether it's like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or other foundations that you see. And these foundations are, I mean, I think their goal is, and I say I think because a lot of these okay, I'm not going to try to be critical, too critical, but the goal and the aim is to try to address, bring about more sustainable solutions to a lot of the problems that we see. So long-term thinking, right? That's the goal. And in fact, if it is the case that these foundations are working towards that goal, you know, a question to ask ourselves is, you know, why are we still seeing that there's a lot of poverty in the world, or a lot of these issues are still there? Malaria is still a thing, right? And we, you know, you would think, okay, we have all these resources, you know, why aren't we addressing it? And we'll get to the solutions at the end. But both of these, philanthropy and humanitarian aid, include giving your time. It can include giving your time to a worthy cause, donating money and donating your talents and expertise. And you know, who can't do these things? At least you could do this one and this one. You know, maybe inshallah in the future I'll be able to do more of this one, but some of you may already be able to do this one as well. And you don't have to have a lot of money, right? We know that all of the hadith that are there, you know, save yourself from the fire, even if it's through donating, giving half a day. You know, there's so many hadith out there on charity, and it isn't a condition for you to be charitable. It isn't a condition that you need to have a ton of money as well. So how did I get involved in this type of work, whether it's Charity Week or I went to Istanbul last year for a short, like, I guess, humanitarian / touristy trip. You know, how did I get involved? So I was definitely inspired, and I learned from others. You know, it was here. So I started here in 2012. That's like a very long time ago. And I graduated in 2017. I think I only really started getting involved in like club activity and work, I think, at the end of my second year. So this was like 2014 going to 2015. And you might have guessed it, it's like through the MSA that I really did get involved, and also through Charity Week. Charity Week, I think, was my introduction. Like the MSA was participating in Charity Week. Then I ended up getting involved in the MSA through various roles. And I don't know if you know who these three brothers and sisters are through the silhouette. These are our three winners. So these are three Muslims. Are any of you familiar with them, who they are? Yes? The rest, you haven't seen or heard of them? Interesting. Okay. So and maybe this is because this happened a while ago, but these are three Muslims who are very involved with charity work. This is Brother Dia. He and his wife, Yusr, in the middle. I know they're only silhouettes. I should have probably had pictures. They were married, and they were providing, you know, dental relief to Syrian refugees, I think in Syria, or it could have been elsewhere. And also the younger sister, Razan, was also very charitable. And I was inspired because these were 23, 21, and 19-year-olds that were doing incredible work. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, their time had come. They were actually killed. And it was through an Islamophobic and a hate attack that they were killed. Someone with evil intent entered their home and killed them. And it was only through their killing that their story really spread of all the amazing things that they were doing. And so, subhanAllah, I took it as a sign, as, you know, they must have been doing some incredible things for their story to spread so far and wide. And it really impacted me. And from there, I thought to myself, you know, I need to take advantage of my youth. You know, one of the categories of people who will be saved on the Day of Judgment or shaded on the Day of Judgment are the youth, you know, who really strived in their deen, right? There may be other descriptors to that, but definitely youth, you know, being very involved. And so I was inspired by them. And one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to create something that would benefit others. So one of the things that they're also known for is like helping their local community. So I won't say I came up with it, but let's just say, for the sake of it, I'd come up with this day called the Day of Service. And it was one day on campus. I can't remember what year this was. I don't think that's the year. It could be 2015, maybe. I think it's 2015. And that's in the meeting place. You guys see familiar with the wall? We're organized as a day of service on campus with faith and community service-based clubs on campus. So we collaborated with the Hindu Students Council, the Jewish group, and some other faith-based groups and other community service-based groups. And what we did is we had a number of activities, a number of things we were doing, but the service part came into play when we decided to put together care packages for homeless youth at a youth shelter called Horizons for Youth. And we did this for 3 years, alhamdulillah. So 3 years in a row, we were able to do this. Anyone who's interested in reviving this, I implore you to try to revive it. I think it's a fantastic initiative. You know, you have one day where clubs come together, and you don't have to partner with those specific clubs if you don't want to, but like there's other clubs where you could come together and do a day of service like this. Okay, so come to me after if you want the blueprint for that. And of course, MSA and Charity Week, that should say number 2. But yeah, through UTSC MSA, I was introduced to Charity Week and I continued volunteering. So what is Charity Week and what was my involvement with this project? So before that, so Charity Week is one of the largest Muslim youth-led projects in the world. It's a partnership through Islamic Relief. And it's 1 week where schools across many different countries come together to raise orphans and needy children. And there are 8 countries that participate or are participating now. I think we added a 9th country, which happens to be Pakistan. And so yeah, Charity Week has now expanded to 9 countries. Last year, we had over 700 institutions. We've had 10,000 volunteers. I don't know if that's last year or throughout the years. More than 14 million pounds have been raised in 20 years. That's over 23 million Canadian, and we've supported more than 500,000 beneficiaries. And this is as a result of the efforts of young people all around the world, high schoolers, college and university students. And more recently, yes, we've been getting some businesses involved as well. But the vision behind this and the reason we do this is we try to unite the ummah. And I have, alhamdulillah, been blessed to lead this campaign. I was a national director for Charity Week Canada, and now last year I supported the Canadian team. And you know, it's a project that's definitely dear to my heart. I've been a part of it for I think 8 years now or so. And yeah, it's definitely one of those initiatives where we're able to maximize the good because we're combining efforts. Instead of one school raising maybe $1,000 and only being able to maybe support 10 orphans, now we're able to support hundreds and maybe even thousands of orphans around the world because we decided to come together. And last year, we were able to raise 2.3 million pounds. That's 4.6 million Canadian dollars in just one week and change. Okay, some schools might go over 1 week, but over 4.5 million Canadian in 1 week. Right, and I'll go into what those projects supported. But the reason why I've probably been a part of this project for a long time is because it's a really fun project, right? You raise money through very creative ways, some traditional ways like baking cakes and bake sales, but other creative ways, and also maybe some humiliation with getting people getting shaved or getting pied in the face. And even though Japan, this is unique because even though Japan was not a Charity Week country, they also had people that participated in Charity Week, right? So there was a talk by this imam, and it was a Charity Week event. So we had people in Japan found out about Charity Week, wanted to participate in Khairan, and they hosted their own event. And we found out later that that was the case. We're also known for auctions. Okay, so in the top left corner, I guess right for you, you have what does that look like? Top right corner. Yeah, it's a jar of olives. Okay, so we're known for auctioning off mundane, typical items. This is actually from Dollarama, if you can see the sticker. Okay, Dollarama. How much do you think this jar of olives went for? One person might know, but how much do you think this jar of olives went for last year at an auction? It was at a university. It's Western University, London. I think you know, Hunain. Can you guys just throw a number? 10,000? Is it because you see these numbers? You're like, let me guess high. 500, 10,000, and 900. Anyone think it went over 10,000 or went under less than 10? Less, right? Over? What would you say? over, mashallah. So actually went for 14,000. So here the process here. That journal almost went for 14,000. I was there when it happened. Okay, anyone want auction tips? You can ask Hunayn now. I passed on the secrets. But 14,000, and people were in doubt. Like, is this possible? Can we raise 14,000 with a group of like only like I would say 50 to like 80 people in the room? I didn't actually count, but I'll just say, let's just say it was about 80 people. Only a few like like people who graduated. Everyone else were just students. So we're known for auctions, and as you can see here, you know, I don't know what that. So this ping pong ball 4,000 QAR. Sorry, I don't know what currency is. T bag went for 7,000 Massachusetts. The Florida beat us just by a little bit with the jar of pickles. It went for 26,000, and then that prayer mat went for 11,500. I think the story behind that prayer mat is that the brother, they wanted to auction it off for a brother who had reverted and prayed in the musalla on a prayer mat, and they wanted to auction off that prayer mat that he prayed his first prayer with. I hope did that story. I remember that story, and I think it's that story, because I don't remember any other prayer mat going for that much. So we're known for really having fun, and apologies for that over there. But you know, where does this money go? So I talked about having fun. You know, we raise all this money. Okay, where does it go? You know, that's like the big question, right? You have what, 4.6 million Canadian. Where does this money go? So this isn't last year. This is 2 years ago. So this is 2022. We did not raise as much as last year, but we raised in the millions, alhamdulillah. And these are all the projects. So, you know, one of the things I love about charity, and this is not just me just coming here, just wanted to talk about charity. I'll talk about other things. But these are the projects that were supported in just 2022. If you look at the countries, right? Typically, sometimes, unfortunately, we see when we, you know, we see organizations, and when they support organizations or countries, it's just a few handful countries, right? The typical countries, which is okay, it's fine. Things I love about Charity Week is that they support countries across the world. You have countries in South Africa, West Africa, East Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, even Southeast Asia, right? And these are some of the projects that were supported. So it says help, but I think it's like water and shelter and facilities in Gaza, Palestine. We had improving water, sanitation, and health services at 6 public schools. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was over 100,000, or around, I think it was 100,000 pounds that went to that. We also had improving primary school in Niger, and education, under education. And then in Bangladesh and in Pakistan, there was emergency relief provided to those who were impacted by the floods. And you know, this information is provided on the website as well through our annual reports. But when you think about the projects that you help to fund, have any of you wondered, you know, what would it be like to actually travel to these countries and to meet these orphans and these refugees? Have you ever wondered, right? Because, you know, it's one thing to donate funds, but it's another thing to actually physically be there in the presence of an orphan or refugee. And there's one hadith that comes to mind, and I'll talk about an experience of me going in person. And this hadith comes to mind, and it's off at the top. And then Abu Hurairah who reported, I don't want to misquote, but that the Prophet Muhammad said, if you want to soften your heart, feed the poor and pat the head of the orphan. Okay, when you read the hadith, what kind of like pops out in the hadith? Is there something, a description that pops out in the hadith?
Patting the head of the orphan.
Yes, that pops out. Why? Because it shows that you're in physical proximity to the orphan. So we know the hadith of like the person who supports the orphans like this with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ will be like that with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Jannah. This is not just talking about supporting, it's talking about the physical proximity. So there's something to be said about physically being in the proximity of an orphan and patting the head of an orphan, right? And so alhamdulillah, I had the opportunity to do just that and to visit and go to Istanbul. Not this time, not with Islamic Relief, but this time with Human Concern International through a trip called Discover Trip. And we're able to deliver Eid gifts to Syrian and Uyghur refugees. These were some of the gifts, you know, their home supplies, pots and pans, even some toys. This is Brother Mahmoud, is super happy to open his package. Package, we were able to visit their homes, and they welcomed us into their homes. Like, it was such a beautiful feeling of being welcomed into their home. And people who don't have much, giving you tea and sweets and things like that. Alhamdulillah, we also were able to distribute qurbani. The qurbani that you donate to, we're able to actually go and distribute it to. And lastly, this picture here is a picture of a Uyghur refugee. Her name is Hatice, which sounds like what? Hatice? It sounds like Khadija. So it's like the Uyghur way of saying Khadija. Her name is Hatice. And, a really cool, so maybe I'll come back to that, what I was going to say about, so yeah, her name is Hatice. Actually, what I'll do is I'm gonna share this. Does anyone know Turkish here? No, no one knows Turkish here. So there was a beautiful back and forth because like she knows Turkish, and we had to use Google Translate like to communicate with the kids, right? Like, couldn't just, I don't know Turkish. I don't know her language either. So so one of the things we did with them is we took them out to the aquarium, right? And then we went to go out for lunch. This might be a normal, typical afternoon or evening for you, right? It's like going for an outing and getting food. And at the table, this was her back and forth. Like, I guess we split up, the guys went to a table, the girls went to a table. So she went with someone else, one of the other volunteers. And they had a beautiful exchange through Google Translate. I just want to read the English translation for you all, okay? So Hatice says, isn't the food a little expensive here? That was her question, right? Through Google Translate. So adorable. Who would ask that? Like, that's beautiful. And then the answer, the volunteer was like, I'm not sure about that, but all I know is that I'm so happy to be here with you today, to spend some time with you and enjoy this meal, okay? And then her response to that was, I just feel, okay, her response to that was, as unche, and I'm not going to put that. Okay, her response to that in English was, I just felt so rich. I just felt so rich. So this girl, all we did was take them out to the aquarium and went to get food, and she felt rich. Imagine the people who you donate food on an ongoing basis, or you pay for their shelter, or you provide them with life-saving surgery. Imagine how rich they would feel. And imagine how rich you would be on Yawm al-Qiyamah, being the one who was able to provide that thing, right? So something that we experience on a weekly basis was something that was that amazing to her, where she had said that, she just felt so rich. So you've heard that, and honestly, it's not a lot. Like, I'm not a humanitarian aid worker, okay? That was just a very short trip. That was a 10-day trip, okay? In and out, right? But it definitely provided me with a taste of what it could be like if I were to do this on an ongoing, or I mean, maybe even an annual basis, right? And you don't necessarily need to do a trip like this through a charity, right? Because these trips exist. Human Concern, this is through Human Concern International, Islamically, they do similar challenge and trips. But really, if you can make it a mission. The next time you go to a country, whether it's Malaysia or even Istanbul, Turkey, ask yourself, in the short time I'm there, can I combine the touristy things I'm doing with something that will provide a meaningful benefit to a family that's there in that location? It could be you going to an orphanage. A few of the volunteers, this wasn't a part of our itinerary, they decided to go to an orphanage and to meet other orphans, right? And they did that on their own will and fruition. They just decided to do that on their own, right? So that's something you could do, right? Like, try to find out, is there an orphanage? Is there a school that might need help? Maybe you could just go and just put a smile on a kid's face, right? So if you make that your intention, you can do things like this, maybe on a it might be spontaneous. It might require you a bit of planning, but there are people on the ground who, if you contact them, they could potentially hook you up with an opportunity to meet a family and to even just visit someone, maybe even give gifts and things like that. So, don't make yourselves, yes, we are strangers in this land, but there are Muslims everywhere, and you don't necessarily need to make yourselves strangers to our brothers and sisters in these places, right? So I'm going to leave you with this. So how can I begin this journey of giving back right now? I'm a university student. I might be broke. I might not have a lot of time, but you have energy, right? Hopefully you have enthusiasm. I don't see a lot of here now. Okay. I know it's like evening time, but you have a lot of enthusiasm, you have a lot of passion. So what can you do? What I want you to do is first and foremost, reflect on your talents and your interests. Where do your interests and your talents intersect? What are your superpowers and what cause interests you? And when I say superpower, we all have superpowers, right? At the very least, you have the superpower of education, something that is not offered to a large portion of the globe, okay? You have the superpower of intellect and just having your functions, right? You have the superpower of resources, of a network. You know, UFT, one of the things that it provides you, alhamdulillah, provided me was a really strong network, right? There are people who can hook you up with jobs. So what is your superpower? What are your interests? And where do those intersect? And don't wait until years later to start. You could start now. You can make a difference. Ask yourself, how can I make a difference now? Strategize. Think of what is that first step? What is something that I'm very passionate about that I would like to do? Is it like tutoring young people? I don't know, that may be your thing. You may just be very talented in explaining something. You know, no one likes to go to anyone else's facilitated group discussions except yours, because you're just an amazing TA or facilitator, right? I don't know, maybe it's like, supporting the senior population, addressing loneliness, you know, or social isolation. Maybe it's like health related. Maybe it's maybe you're very good at finances. You know how to make money. You know, the halal way. Maybe that's like your thing. You want to teach people that. So how can you make a difference? Start strategizing and then take that first step. I remember seeing a video of this 10-year-old who has a candy business, and he donates 75% of the proceeds to charity. And now he has like influencers like promoting his things. He probably didn't think that. He's 10 years old. He just started like a candy business, and I think he made 34,000 last year. I know that might not be a lot to when you think about business, but you know, for a 10-year-old, I think that's a lot. And he was able to donate either that amount or 75% of that. So don't wait till years later. There's something that you can do right now. Think about it. And remember, when you do figure out that thing, remember to unite and try to get others involved, right? Don't just keep this thing to yourself. Try to get others involved and think of ways to maximize those efforts by getting others involved. You know, spread the khair and care. And it's important that we think of uniting, right? Because there isn't a time in the world where we need unity more than now. And you know, on this point of like, don't wait till years later, or even after you graduate, don't stop the activism or the good that you're doing after you graduate, because there's so many people who once they graduate, life comes in the way, maybe things happen, they get married, maybe they have a family, and it stops. But continue the good. And one person, a local hero, talking about heroes, superpowers, a local hero that comes to mind is a sister that actually graduated from here. I think she was a part of the SCSU at one point. I'm sure she was a part of the MSA. She actually started Charity Week, like Canada. So Charity Week only was taking part in the UK. Her and a few other people brought it to Canada. Canada was the first country out of the 9 now that made Charity Week international. It was the first country that participated. And now, you know, she's done all this great work. And what is she doing now? She is like, her activism is on another level when it comes to the Palestine issue. Like, she is using her skills in communications, in media relations. She even put together kind of like a media relations kind of a 101, you know, to coach people on how do you engage with the media, alongside Janella Massa, who's like a journalist as well. So she is someone who's like super active and continuing that activism later on after after graduating as well. So yes, start now, but also once you graduate, continue to do good and benefit the ummah. Because again, as I was getting to, this is a time where there's a lot of chaos, right? We're seeing a lot of chaos in the world, you know, and we need to, and one of the reasons why, you know, we're seeing a lot of chaos is because of disunity. And is the Islam and, you know, the golden age, our golden age is a partner, right? When we think about the golden age, you know, and we think about, you know, the pinnacle of Islam, and we think about the legends, the greats, right? So let's say, you know, Khalid ibn Walid, who people feared, right? This was an amazing commander and a leader. We have that same Islam. Islam has not changed. right? We have the same Islam. The same Islam, pardon me, that caused people to fear him is the same Islam that unfortunately now we're witnessing hundreds of babies and children being killed per day, and there's nothing we can do about it. You know, the same Islam of Mansa Musa, who was the richest man, you know, according to history, one of the richest people in the world, is the same Islam of some of the poorest countries, the Muslim countries that we have. The same Islam of Fatima al-Fihri, you know, who started the first Islamic university or the first university, is the same Islam, unfortunately, of some of the least educated countries, which happen to be Muslim countries, right? And the reason is that the Islam has not changed. We've changed. And there's been a lot of disunity. And the thing that we need in order to get back to that pinnacle is for us to start thinking like an ummah, to have an ummatic mindset, right? And if we, you know, pull our weight and we see our history as not just history, as something to inspire to, then we can bring about that change, right? And we can leave the same legacy that they've left, right? And so you have to believe that we can get back to that place. And that's not just history. Inshallah, that will be our future too, okay? So hopefully, you know, you're left with something here and again, spread the khair and try to find something that you're passionate about and trying to unite with others along that passion, okay? Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's make a very loud takbir. I know it's quiet, it's dark, but you know, even the angels should hear, and most importantly, we should shake these walls with our amins and takbir. So let's go ahead. Bismillah. Takbir! Takbir! I want Hunain and Yasmin, who's wearing headphones right now, to hear quite readily us saying Allahu Akbar. Let's try one more time. Bismillah. Takbir! Okay, inshallah she'll hear. Maybe the echoes are gonna vibrate continuously for her. But Jazakumullahu khair, Brother Fatah and Sister Maryam. May Allah bless both of you for sharing your pearls of wisdom. Alhamdulillah. And I personally mean it because nowadays it's imperative for us to see, while we're students, how can we be of support for the ummah? How can we shed light upon many humanitarian crises that exist all over the world? And for me personally, like I've been very invested on the situation in Palestine because of it being a matter of fact, my brothers and sisters in Islam, and that's sufficient for us to be so involved in any shape or form, because literally brothers and sisters are sacrificing their blood, literally defending Masjid al-Aqsa and all of Sham. So for us, may Allah allow us to be amongst those that remain steadfast. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be amongst those that please Him and not be amongst those that are replaced. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be amongst those that reach our next golden age through the MSA and OJA. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. I want us to, inshallah, be able to, I can't see the time. So, 7:10 or so. Before we break for Salat al-Isha, are there any questions for our dear philanthropist, Dr. Brother Fatah Awil? Okay. May Allah bless our dear leader. Can you add any questions for our dear brother here? Yes.
Charity at large scale, how do you keep yourself grounded in thinking of people as individuals and not becoming overly concerned with numbers? So like quality over quantity. Sure. No.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be better.
So how do you focus on quality over just quantity? I think it's easy to focus. First, just because someone supports thousands of people or hundreds of people, or organization supports thousands of people, hundreds of people, doesn't necessarily mean they're making more impact than you. You know, whether it's like you just having the intention of cleaning the masjid, right? Or cleaning after an MSA event, right? alhamdulillah, our deeds are judged by our intentions. They're not judged by the impact or the outcome that they have. You know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our leader, or the greatest man to ever walk the face of earth, did he see the outcomes of his efforts? Did a lot of the leaders, the Sahaba, see the outcomes of their efforts? The outcomes is not what we're after. The intention, the effort that we put in, that's what we're after. We want to be a people who die upon striving, for the deen of Allah. And it could look like many things. Okay, it could, for some people, if you're very talented in Islamic knowledge, maybe that's your thing. If you're very, you have the drive and you want to create scientific discoveries for the sake of Allah and to help humanity, that's something you could do, right? If you want to, just make it easier for people in your local community, that's something you could do as well, and is very honorable. So that's kind of what keeps me grounded, is knowing that it is not the outcomes, it is the effort. And when you think that way, if someone is in front of you and they are in need of help, then you help them, right? You don't, like, let's say you're walking to, you make an intention of going to a fundraiser, okay? You're going to a fundraiser, you have $1,000, you want to donate that $1,000. But then on the way, you see someone whose car broke down, right? Okay, you think to yourself, okay, I can go to this event, I'm gonna miss it, I'm gonna donate $1,000, okay? Or should I help this person whose car broke down on the side of the road? So in that moment, you say, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who are most beneficial to the people. I want to be beneficial to this person whose car broke down on the road. You may see that as something that isn't praiseworthy, but in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praiseworthy, right? I don't want to give a long-winded answer, but one of my favorite stories recently is the story of the hairdresser of Fir'aun's wife or daughter, the hairdresser of Fir'aun's daughter. So does anyone know why, what the story is? No, okay, maybe that's, sorry, I'm putting it back at you. But the reason I love the story, and I'll quickly summarize the story. Essentially, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is traveling through Jannah, I think during the Isra wal Mi'raj journey, and he smells a scent. Okay, he smells this beautiful scent. He asks Jibreel alayhi salam, what is this scent, right? And Jibreel alayhi salam tells him it's the daughter of, is the hairdresser of Fir'aun's daughter. What's so special about the hairdresser of Fir'aun's daughter? When she was combing the hair of Fir'aun's daughter, she dropped her comb and she said, Bismillah. And Fir'aun's daughter said to her, do you mean in the name of my father? She says, no, in the name of Allah, the Lord of your father. Okay? And then, of course, the daughter, being the daughter of Fir'aun, goes and tells Fir'aun. And it's a consequence of her saying Bismillah and not going back on that, is that the punishment was that she would be thrown in a pit of fire. Not only that, she would have to throw her children in a pit of fire as well and watch them burn. Okay? And she had to do that. She was forced to do that. And I'm sure I'm missing details of the story, but she was also, thrown into the pit of the fire. And if you think about it, just forget about the context that I just shared. If you think about just that moment of her being thrown in the pit of a fire during Fir'aun's time, you would think she would be forgotten in history. She would not even be a footnote, right? This is a person who should be forgotten, right? Think about it. Who would record her history? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recorded it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recorded it. It may be insignificant, her sticking to her deen, saying Bismillah. Other people may see her as just a hairdresser. But there must have been something praiseworthy enough for the Prophet ﷺ to ask about her scent, and to be a story that we're telling during the best time, during the best ummah, the ummah of Rasulullah ﷺ, right? Just imagine how wild that is. She should have just been forgotten. So again, you might be doing, I'm not saying you might be doing, the things you're doing, I'm sure are great, okay? It's just about making sure you have that intention, right? Because that's more important. And that's how you see the quality over the quantity.
I have one more question. Just wondering when the day of service is.
So the day of service had retired. So it took place from 2015 to 2017 for 3 years in a row. And if you want to start again, you can try, start it. I see some MSA members here. So essentially what it was is just, I can't remember when it took place, what semester, It could have been, I don't remember it. I remember wearing winter jacket. No, I don't remember wearing winter jackets. I don't know if it was in the fall or if it was in the winter, but I know it took place in the meeting place. So the first thing we did is like we played some games just to break the ice. Like there were some games in the meeting place. Then we built the packages. So I think we got some sponsorship, also some things donated. We made about definitely I think over 50 packages. Like we made a good amount of packages, and we built them together. So we built these care packages that hygiene kits and things like that. And then afterwards, the third piece of it, so the games, the building the packages, and then there was like a talk. I think the first year it was like a little talk that we gave on like what does charity and service mean to you. And I guess just to be fair and balanced, like we had the chaplain, Imam Patel, and then there was also the Jewish leader that was on campus. They also like talked about it as well. And then the second year, I don't think we did that. The second year, I don't remember what we replaced it with, but essentially the main piece of it was the kind of the building of the care packages. And you're doing it with like other community service-based groups, faith-based groups, right? And it's just like one day where you're doing it together. And it's a form of da'wah, right? Like the MSA was leading this effort. So like it's a great form of da'wah to do it. And then to tie it to the deen, because sometimes people see us, they see us doing all this great work, but they think, okay, we're just like really good people. Like, no, like we're doing these things because like we're encouraged to do it. Yes, like we have the good hearts. But what is leading that effort? You know, what is the foundation? What is like behind that effort is our Islam that is pushing us forward. Yeah. So I can share documents if you guys want to start again. Keep saying that. But yeah, if you want to start the day of service again, just you can like, and then you can message me. I can share documents. Maybe you get one of the volunteers to do it. You're all volunteers, but like, you know, someone to do it. Yeah, cool.
Any other questions? Also online, maybe we could have a look.
Check in the chat.
On the mouse.
What? Just click on the chat. Leave me alone.
No, it's hard to navigate. I know.
No, I think we're good. Oh, okay.
That was previous. That was the previous.
Was it? Yeah, okay.
6:30.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. I have a question.
Sure.
For both Brother Fatah and Sister Maryam, if she's on live. One question I have as alhamdulillah, you both explored either the world or various different charities out there. My question is there a need that you've noticed that remains unmet? And do you have the plan of essentially solving that issue or solving that unmet need in the community, be it by starting another organization or moving somewhere else or expand upon?
Too many organizations. I'll let Sister Maria answer. Wait, should she hear? I don't think
Yes,
she-
yes, I can hear. I can
Okay.
hear.
Go for
That's
it.
a loaded question. I think there's a lot of need in the Muslim community, I think, both locally and internationally. Working with international partners and charities, you see that there's so much poverty and so much uneducation of just children. So it's like there's so much need overseas, and you kind of learn, or we kind of feel that, you know, we send our money back home and we send that kind of stuff. But now working with a charity that works locally, at Sakeena, we work with, you know, women and children who've been in abusive households, or they're facing poverty, or they're immigrants who've just come to Canada and they're facing refugee status or something of that sort. You see that there's also so much need in Canada as well. You see there's so much need at home where you think, oh, you know, we have social services and we have the government and we have welfare, you know, it should help them, it should take care of their needs. But there is so much more than that. And there's so many gaps. Like just working with within Sakeena, we've just opened the first Muslim foster care program, which is basically it's so incredible because I've heard stories before of, you know, family friends who wanted to foster care Muslim children, but the agencies wouldn't let a Muslim child be paired with a Muslim family because they were scared of indoctrination, or, you know, they're going to make them extremists. And I was so scared. I was so sad to hear that because I was thinking like these children who are in the foster care system aren't going to be raised as Muslim children. They're going to lose their value and their identity. So just something like this, something that's, you know, just probably past our minds. We don't, you know, maybe if you don't have someone in the foster care system, you might not even think of that. So I thought that was something very like startling to me to know that there's so many Muslim children in the foster care system who, you know, don't get to celebrate Ramadan like the rest of us do, or they're very isolated during Eid. So there's so many gaps, and there's so much opportunity to help, and you know, develop our, you know, our next generation of leaders, like just developing them and getting them to work in the community. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I can't really pinpoint on what would be like the next thing. Me and my brother, my younger brother, who's also in charities, we had this idea to open up a Muslim daycare. It didn't really flourish at all, but it's still at the back of my mind because when you think about trusting your children with someone, especially at such a young age, you want to trust them with someone who's going to have the same values and the same core beliefs as you. And that's something that's kind of a luxury to be putting your child in a daycare system. But even that, we want to have so much of like, you know, have our children protected. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it, but I don't think I can really offer like a pinpointed answer, maybe what you were looking for.
Jazakumullahu khair. That was amazing. May Allah bless you.
Yes, good answer. I think that's such a great answer, Sister Maryam. And I think what you highlighted is, and I also agree with you. Yes, there are a ton of issues. You know, it's hard to picture, and that's why there's many of us. The Ummah is what, 2 billion people, right? So imagine if we all decide to, combine and unite our efforts along certain issues. That's how we make an effort, we make a difference. And so I like how Sister Maryam, you highlighted here. The issue is trying to maintain our Islamic values, right? And I think the daycare idea is such a great idea. I never even thought about that. So that's a gap that exists. You've done a lot of thinking. If we all could do thinking as well, what are the gaps that exist within our community? And really, maintaining your Islamic values, in this environment. That's why, people want to put their kids in Islamic school, and people want their children to be saved. That's our test, right? We may not have the test of material deprivation or illness. Those may be tests that other people face, but it depends on really what is your test, what are your challenges. And again, think about what are your interests, what are your talents, and what are the gaps, and how can you make a difference, right? Those are questions we should be turning to on ourselves. I could say from not ourselves, all of us, right? What I can say, through Charity Week, one of the things that we've tried to do is try to come with sustainable solutions, right? The idea is when you pull your efforts and resources and you direct them towards sustainable solutions, that's how you make a difference. Because you want to make these organizations and charities something that won't exist in the future, right? That should be our goal. How do we make these organizations not exist? That's the goal, right? We're not like a business trying to make money, right? So we want to make sure these organizations exist. So one of the projects that I love is providing microfinance loans. So these are loans I don't think that you have to return. Microfinance loans to widows and families so that they could start their own small businesses and they could generate incomes. There are mothers who've been given money to open up their own stalls in certain countries in Africa. And now they're able to have a business. There's also projects that provide young people with these trade skills, whether it's carpentry or these other trade skills, where they now have a skill that they can use to make money. So think about how do we enable these families to generate a sustainable source of income, right? So that's one way. Education is also a big thing too, because with education now, that's one way. You might not see the returns immediately, but that's in the future. There's a hope, and that through education that you can also generate a sustainable source of income in the future. That's if you want to alleviate poverty, right? How do you think about generating sustainable sources of income? But again, there's so many issues, really. There's so many issues. And if you want to make a local impact, I'd say come together, find a few friends and do something, right? I know there was a friend of mine, even though this is not huge, it's not starting an organization or anything. He saw that, okay, it costs a lot to support an orphan for a year. It's like $90 per month through Islamic Relief. And the reason is because there's a lot of quality assurance and things like that. So through Islamic Relief, it's about $90 per month. So instead of paying it on his own, he got like 6 of us. We're each paying $15. Or we were. I don't know what happened to it, but we were. That's something that we were doing for some time. So if that's something you could do, right? You can donate $15 a month, right? And you can support an orphan. Or you can come together and think about, maybe, is there a long-term thing that I can do? Because I mentioned long-term, that's not very long-term in terms of sustainable solutions. Is there something that I could do with my friends and I could come up with and address a need? You know, maybe you can help join more sources of Sister Maryam and come up with a Muslim daycare. I think that I would love to benefit from that. I don't have any kids or anything, but that would be something I would probably benefit from in the future. So, any other questions? Questions online, in person?
Amr, you have one? Oh, like a reflection, or did you want me to share a reflection? I don't have any questions, no. Yes.
Sister Maryam, I wanted to know, what's the most important trait you think someone involved in humanitarian aid and philanthropy should have?
Great question. So the talent or the ability they should have?
Like trait, like
What trait?
yeah, or personality.
I would have to say just a go-getter mentality, like someone who would take initiative. There's so much times in the philanthropy or humanitarian sector where you're going to be pushed out of your comfort zone, or you're going to be asked to do something that's not within your job description, and you might, if you are there for a 9 to 5, get your job done, you're going to feel like, this isn't my job, I shouldn't have to do this. But when you're looking at it from the bigger picture of like, this is a community that I serve, you know, for the sake of Allah, this is the community that I serve because I'm going to benefit from it in the long run. This is the community I serve because, you know, I'm a part of it, and this is what I want to bring. This is my ummah. You're thinking of it you're thinking of it greater than yourself. So you're going to take on things that you might not feel comfortable with, or you're going to take on things that are a bit out of your comfort zone. And that's not to say, let people take advantage of you. At the end of the day, like, yes, you might be put in a position where, you have to do beyond your scope and you feel like you're not capable. Speak to your managers about that for sure. Don't like put yourself in that position. But there are things that, will stretch you, and I think that's important for growth. So just being a go-getter, taking initiative, being quick on your feet, and then also trying hard and making mistakes. You learn a lot from that. So these are just some of the traits I think I've picked up, or, you know, I tried to pick up within this field. And a lot of times you start a job and you're like, I'm not capable, I can't do this. I didn't study enough for it, I don't have the knowledge. But I think a lot of us start things and we don't know, we learn on our feet, and that's where you learn best, when you're forced into a situation.
For the that, did you perhaps want to add anything?
I think that's a great answer. Yeah. Anything? No? No.
If yes, Brother Hamid.
Some advice I've gotten over the past couple of weeks by a couple of people is, say once you're in the MSA involved, at some point it becomes kind of sad that you're leaving the MSA, say you're graduating or going into.
It kind of gets sad because you've spent so much or invested so much of your kind of prime time of university time into the MSA, and you don't know like what's next in terms of, you still want to be involved but don't know how. And so the advice I've gotten is sort of, you don't really retire from the MSA. Is that like, MSA is a place where you earn the experience and then apply it to other organizations. So my question is, how do you, and it kind of relates to a question already asked before, but I personally am kind of like afraid of just choosing one organization, because I feel like I might just get stuck in something that I might not, you know, be built for, or might not have the perfect skill set for. And another part of me is like what if there's something better for me? And of course, at the end of the day, it's Allah's plan. Of course, at the end of the day, we have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever's meant for us will be for us. But how do you start? Like, how do you just make up your mind about one organization when you see that there's so many organizations out there that have so much good or that offer so much good, or so many programs out there that you could be involved in? How do you just pick like one?
I feel like we have to unpack that. Why do you feel like you have to get stuck with another organization? I think that's a great question. I think honestly, that's probably a question a lot of people in the MSA have, like who've been part of the MSA for a long time. I think you're just saying things that people are feeling. So, kudos to you. Thank you for being brave enough to say really what's on your mind and what you're feeling. Because I think it starts with, just being honest. It's definitely not the end of the world. I know it feels like, you've poured your heart into it. One thing I'll say, Hunain, and for others who really dedicate a lot of time to MSA, it's not something you're going to regret ever. I've never heard of someone who's really been involved in the MSA who say that they regret it, that they wish they put their time elsewhere. In fact, I've seen the people who've strived the most as being part of the MSA have been among the most successful in their careers, in their other endeavors, in their other goals. I have not come across a person who's put a lot in the MSA and is not thriving now, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't put barakah. You see, and it's evident. I'm thinking of the people right now. It's evident the barakah that's in their lives right now, and they've been able to achieve their goals. I want to say like they're dunya goals, but really they're using those dunya goals to like support people, their families, and other people as well. So it's not something that you'll regret. It's not something that I regret. And there's so many transferable skills that you gain from being a part of the MSA or any other organization that you may be a part of here, or any other club that you may have invested time in here, whether it's leadership, it's project management, it's communications. There are so many things you get. And if the only thing you walk away from the undergrad experience is that is just your grades and you went to classes, like that's where you've fallen short. Like that's what I would regret, is if I have not been involved in campus life. Because there's so much that you benefit from. It really builds your character. It builds you, right? And you meet great people, you gain further responsibility, you develop a network. And hopefully, throughout this experience, you figure it out what your likes and dislikes are, what type of work you like, what environments you like, and try to copy or try to find environments that feel like that. And it might require some experimenting. For me, I thought, Charity Week was such a natural transition because I didn't feel like I'm stuck with an organization, because what we always hear about Charity Week is it's not about Charity Week. It's not about the project. It's about unity, right? So I'm attaching myself onto a vision. So think about it, like, is there a vision that an organization has that you can attach yourself onto? Because we say, like, outside of Charity Week, how can you spread that vision of unity? How can you unite people in other aspects? Because really, like, you're gonna retire from Charity Week. I'm gonna retire from Charity Week. I'm gonna do other things as well. Really, it's about, what is it about the MSA that really pulled you in? And how can I find spaces that replicate that? And even if they don't, maybe try dabbling in new spaces and take what you learn from the MSA and try benefiting other organizations. Don't always look at it as like, I'm benefiting from the organization. No, the organization or the cause is benefiting from you and your talents and your experiences that you've been able to gain over the years, right? So think of yourself as this autonomous being. Your skills and talents have been crafted, and now you can take that and benefit other people, right? You're your own barakah business man and woman, okay? I just literally made that up. You're your own barakah person, okay? So you come with barakah, inshallah, and you will be able to offer a lot of barakah. So see it that way. It's not a sentence. Like, you're not like signing a contract whenever you join the organization, right? So yeah, that's what I like to say. And yeah, find people, like, talk to people. And it's great. You've already been getting advice. And this is the case with anything, if you have a problem, talk to people about it. Sorry, I don't want to feel like I'm like your life coach now, but like, if you have a problem, just talk to someone about it. Don't try solving things on your own. And I like that you asked that question.
Very well said, brother. I also want to add, the Muslim community is so tight knit. You will find your people in all these spaces so often. I have friends in multiple spaces that I work in or volunteer in. So don't worry, once you get your foot out of the door, the MSAs are a lot bigger, especially in those Muslim spaces. So you will see familiar faces and you will be able to like find your space. It does take some trial and error. And there were times when, I was in an organization that I didn't feel aligned with my values, or I feel like, I'm my efforts aren't being put into proper use. And it's okay. You're allowed to do what you can. And then when you find that, you know, maybe I'm not benefiting or the organization's not benefiting from me, you can move on to something better. And, you know, that's where growth comes in. So definitely, inshallah, you have a journey ahead of you. Don't be scared. Take opportunities that come your way and, you know, have a good intention, inshallah, and Allah will guide you towards what's best.
Just want to say at the end of the day or at end of the life, Allah knows your deeds, so you'll be blessed accordingly. You don't have to like join as many clubs, do your best. Have to pay attention to your academics at the same time too. But my question is, what are the paths and the like a journey towards being like a scholar? I was always curious about like being like a scholar. I grew up as like very religious, like a ways, but I was like off the hook for a while. Then got back into like being religious, and my family is like pushing me be like a scholar. While you're in university, you can like achieve both at the same time. So yeah, that's question is for you.
So just to clarify, what type of scholar?
Islamic scholar.
Islamic scholar. Okay. I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question. Mohammed, do you want to answer this question?
I apologize. I did say doctor, but maybe.
Oh no, I'm not. Is that the confusion? Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I don't have a PhD. I don't know where that came from. I do know where it came from.
A doctor, better than a doctor.
No.
Right vision and mindset.
No, what I'd like to say, no, I mean, I think you brought up a good point, but yeah, focus on academics. Like, I didn't want to. Sorry, I'm not like trying to advocate for like just devoting your whole time to charity work or volunteer work. Like, definitely, yeah, do take care of your academics, and yeah, find like a local imam or scholar like to talk to. You know, in your local masjid, you know, maybe speak to them. There's a lot of like scholars within our local communities. You know, they may not have the social media platform or be seen as influencers, but they are like scholars, like they're learned people, right? So like go to your local masjid and ask. And you know, I'm guessing they would say start with the the basics, the foundations. Also, it depends on like what level you're at. You know, sometimes you have to like go through an institution, or you have to sit down with scholars and learn it the traditional way. I don't want to tread these waters, you know, just because, but I think it's the same thing to say, you know, go to your local imam, local scholar, and you can maybe get some further advice from them, inshallah.
Don't get me in the wrong way. Your ambitions are Jazakallah very nice, but I had like few experience with other friends who got involved in like so many joining clubs and everything. So at the end, they didn't do very good in their academics. So like they lost a lot of their time then coming back onto the track. So it's nice, it's mashallah, it's very nice to have like one or two clubs during the year, but don't get too overwhelmed with like activities and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely have a balance. Like we're part of like you know, Ummatan Wasata, right? Like the middle nation. Like you just have to have a balance. You know, for me, for example, I see like, you know, people have like downtime. Maybe they play video games or they do certain, like my downtime is like is not all the time. I still like go on binge YouTube videos and other things like that. But like what I see this like work, and I'm sure many of you see this work as like part of your downtime. Like it's something that you just find a lot of joy in, right? So hopefully it's not something that should not be a burden, definitely. And you have responsibilities, right? You have responsibilities to your family, you know, you're paying tuition, so you should excel. You know, if you want to come back to the golden age, you should excel in all aspects, right? You should excel in your deen, you should excel in your academics, you should excel in being a good neighbor, you should excel in all these different things, right? So yeah, I agree with that. Maybe Sister Maryam, you have anything to add?
I'll just add, especially when you're in university and you're taking on so much. I know the MSA is a huge role that you guys play, and I'm so like incredibly impressed by the work the members of the MSA do. I wasn't able to go to university, so whenever I see these MSAs, these tight-knit communities, I'm always so grateful to see that the youth are working together. So I would just say, also don't put too much on yourself that it leads into burnout, because I see a lot of youth who are like they're focused on their academics, and then they're focused on, you know, part-time jobs, and then they're focused on the MSA, and it's a lot, and it will wear you down. So kind of stay with the consistency that Islam teaches us, which is, you know, the small deeds are consistent. That's what's best, rather than, you know, you push something so much on yourself and it causes you to just like burn out, and, you know, you end up losing a lot of things. So just focus on those small consistent things, and I think inshallah you'll benefit from that in the long term.
Any other questions, brothers or sisters? Yes?
How do both of you make sure that you are consistently grounding yourself in the right intentions? Or how do you make sure that you're not losing sight of what you came to do and what your intentions are, and how to keep everything that you do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Good question, Sister Maryam?
Oh, I was gonna let you start that one. Great question, mashallah. One of the things I think that really grounds me, especially in the work I'm doing currently, is reading those testimonials that, you know, the clients, when they leave our transitional homes, what they say. Because I'm fortunate that I work from home, and I do grant writing, so I'm kind of cut off. I'm kind of like on an island compared to everyone else, the caseworkers who work directly with those clients, and I don't see the actual work that happens at Sakeena. But when I read those testimonials and they talk about, like, you know, I came from this country, or I was dealing with this situation and you were able to help me to, you know, get my own apartment or get my own job. It's really striking to see that, like, these are actual individuals in our community. This isn't just, you know, a fictional story. These are people they have lives and they have dreams, and they're just like us. So when I see that the work we do has a benefit, and these are like growing the lives of Muslims in our, you know, they're our neighbors, they're our families, they're our cousins. It's very humbling to see that I have maybe some minuscule part in that, and that helps me. So I think really like creating that bond with the work you're doing. So if you're doing orphan sponsorship with your MSA, you know, try to get those testimonials, or if you can speak with Islamic Relief or whoever your sponsorship is, to see those pictures on the ground. Once you see the work you're doing, it makes it so much, like, it almost softens your heart as to like the work has that impact. And of course, you know, Allah's holding that reward for you in the hereafter, but when you see it, it's so encouraging. So I would say try to like connect yourself with the work you're doing, and try to get that human connection, build that, because it really does have an impact a lot stronger than, you know, you just put your head down and keep working. And we are, as Muslims, meant to be in communities. So yeah, I would think just kind of maybe focus on that.
Just to clarify, so it's keeping your intention sincere, right? Yeah, so keeping your intention sincere, I think you just have to remember that, like, no one, okay, so when you like eat fruits, right? Like, let's say you like open up a banana or orange or apple. If you just leave it out and you don't protect it, like, what ends up happening? It rots, it spoils, right? So like that's like your deeds, and the cover is your sincerity, is your intentions, right? Like, no one wants to go about and engage in all this good and this effort and imagine, like, on Day of Judgment, you're just like, you know, all that is for nothing. Like, you don't want to waste your time, you don't want to waste your efforts. Okay, so now you understand that, okay, practically, you know, how do you go about it? You know, for me, I just remind myself that I'm just a vehicle. Like, I'm just a tool. At the end of the day, I'm just a tool. I can easily be replaced, right? You can be replaced. You know, we can all easily be replaced. And that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing, you know, us a favor and helping us by putting us in these positions where we can give and support other people. And so make the dua that, you know, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep your intentions sincere, but for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to use you and to not replace you, right? You want to be used. You don't want to be replaced, and really to not praise yourself too much, deflect praise as much as you can. Try to not see yourself as better than others, right? What are we taught? We're taught when we're taught to look at people beneath you who have, you know, less material, maybe blessings or goods, and to be grateful in that. And to look at people above you, who are striving in deen and in other things that are praiseworthy to strive for. and to strive for that. There's always someone who's doing a better job than us, right? And so really that should humble us and to remind ourselves that like really like we're not all that. We just hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the little that we do, but at the same time, we don't, you know, trivialize our efforts, saying that correctly, and we still try to do things in the best way that we can. Like we don't come with that mentality and say, okay, well, you know, I'm just gonna do a poor job. No, you're gonna try to do the best that you can and hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it. And at the end of the day, just remember that, you know, someone else could have done that same job. But don't feel defeated at the same time. You know, still strive.
Two questions. Question number one. And this may just be like very personal, but question one is, I'll speak loud, don't worry, it's okay. Question one is, when you so with MSA, I know this is a concern for some people at least. And I consider MSA as kind of like any other organization out there to do good in the way of Allah. As some people on the MSA that invest a lot of time into it often get a lot of criticism from their parents for spending a lot of time in something where, you know, oh, why aren't you focusing on your academics? Like, you know, you could be doing like we are doing that, but hey, you like all of this extra time you invest into this, you know, you could be using into this. It's not that they discourage you from doing anything, you know, for the sake of Allah, but rather not doing too much, you know, just having a balance. Although like those people may feel like they do already have a balance. So how do you kind of, and this may, like I said, it just may be a personal thing. There may not be words of advice, but if you have dealt with that, I know Sister Maryam said that she, like, mashallah, her parents encouraged her and helped her get into this field. But for someone that's like opposite, what advice do you have? Like, what do you tell your parents? Like, hey, like, don't worry, I like, don't stress. Like, any words of it?
Yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of people here resonate, right? Even if you don't want to put your hand up and you're like, you don't, yeah, a lot of people here resonate with that. I think you just have to be a great son or daughter to your parents, right? So try to be the best son or daughter that you can be. Try to reconcile that with, I don't know, like maybe like you bake them their favorite like treat or something. Okay, I mean, that could work. But okay, if you want to get serious, like I think also it can help like showing them the impact of your work. Like bring them to like a grand iftar, or bring them to the OSP gala, right? Or bring them to, you know, these events and just show them, treat them, give them the best seat at the table, you know, in the house, you know, introduce them to your friends, like they're real people, right? Like introduce them to the people that you work with, that you volunteer with. Like they're not just you're taking notes. Yeah, so introduce them to your family, and you have to do that part. But just show them, right? Show them videos, show them, because really to them, it just they might not understand what it is, and rightfully so. You maybe not, you didn't explain it, or show them. Sometimes it's showing that it's the best, like showing a video or a picture. Like the auction, you guys raise a lot of money, right? You know, showcase that and just highlight certain things that you've done, and yeah, and just be the best that you can be. Like I'm sure, like I see you have the kafayas, right? I've been told by family members like, hey, be careful, like, you know, wearing it in certain areas, right? I'm sure you've been seeing, but really when you think about it, like you all know your boundaries, right? You know like what's the actual risk, what's not. Like wearing a kafaya is not like a, you know, big risk, because in your head you're thinking, in your mind you're thinking, what am I risking compared to, you know, my brothers and sisters in Gaza? Like they're risking their lives. You know, what's a job, you know, or a placement, or that, like that's something that can easily be replaced, right? So, you know, it's part of you being like just convicted and just being strategic and being smart about it. But yeah, you can like treat them every now and then, right? As well, that could always help.
I wanted to
Does that
add,
help? Oh, I know I was being a bit joking, like joking.
No, that helps. That helps. Because I mean, you did kind of touch on something. Is that like sometimes they may not feel prioritized when you're like, okay, mom, like I'm sorry, I have a meeting from 5 to 8. Like and then she's like, but what about something that I've been meaning to talk to you? Like, so I 100%. I think it just may be an issue of doing a better job at making sure that you're communicating with them and showing them the result of anything that you're doing. So 100% that helps. Jazakallah khairan. It's just it's something obviously like basic, but it's something I haven't really acknowledged myself at least.
Yeah, what they're raising could be a symptom. It might not be the root of it. You mentioned, right? So they might be the symptom might be that they're seeing you spending too much time, but really they will just want more time with you. So like that's what's actually missing. So figure out like what's the root, like what's the code here, like what is the thing that they're not saying? That's the actual issue, right? And I know it's part like psychology too. I don't know, others have things to say about that, but yeah.
Did you want to add anything, Sister Maryam? Because I know you were going to speak.
I did want to add one thing. I know when our parents, they want us to go in our academics and they want us to become lawyers and engineers and doctors. And then when something happens with these, when our kids need spiritual help or they want to go to the masjid and they want their kid to learn Islamiyat and Arabic, they want it to be at a high level of proficiency. So I think for our parents' generation, we want to kind of bridge the gap that professionals can also be people of religion and people of knowledge, and the people of knowledge shouldn't be people who are uneducated. So when like I see in our communities where we have these doctors who come to the masjid and they donate and they leave, but they're not involved in the community. So I think it's lovely to see all the youth who are involved in the MSA and they're involved in their academics. And I think this is kind of where, like, bring your parents to these events for sure. Let them see the work you're doing, but let them also know that like the impact it's going to have on you in the future, that you're an educated Muslim youth right now, and you're going to grow up and have your career in engineering, or you're going to be a lawyer, and you're going to be incredible in your degrees, but you're also going to have this Islamic background that's going to also enhance your life in so many ways. And you'll pass it on to the next generation of your children and, those who you help. So just having that balance in a Muslim of the secular knowledge and the Islamic knowledge is so important in just everything you do. And that's kind of the balance I try to see for myself, because I know for my parents, it was the opposite. They wanted us to pursue strictly Islamic knowledge, and they were kind of lax on the secular knowledge. So it's a balancing act for sure. But yeah, the struggle is difficult. So inshallah, you can figure out something from that. I don't know if it was helpful. It was just my 2 cents.
Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. Last question. A very small question. There's like I said earlier, there's a lot of organizations out there that have a lot of programs that one may be interested in. Is it wise to get volunteer in a bunch of different organizations at your capacity, of course, not to burn yourself out, but be involved with like 2 to 3 organizations, taking lead on, like a small project within a bunch of different organizations, or just kind of trying, like really investing heavily into one and I mean, I guess that's personal again. It's like it depends on your I guess preference maybe.
Absolutely, yeah.
But never mind. Jazakallah khairan. I appreciate the help.
I think we have a relationship where I can tease you, right? Yeah, it's turned into like a therapy session for you, isn't it? Just say it. It's a therapy session. I'm just kidding. Forgive me. No. I honestly, I feel like you're just saying things that people are also thinking about. You're just brave enough again to say it. So again, very courageous. In terms of strategy, yeah, that could definitely work. Like just dipping your toe into different environments. You don't necessarily have to have like a position to volunteer, right? So you can help with the soup kitchen. I'm sure if this room, you all can come up with like 10 ideas at least of things that you can do. If you want to help children who are differently abled, maybe Smile Canada is of interest to you. If, you know, it's maybe if you're interested in mental health, it's, nasiha. If you're interested in, Sakeena Canada, you can volunteer with them. I'm sure there's opportunities. So, there's so many organizations out there. You just have to, try to dip your toes in, and I would say don't commit to things you can't fulfill as well. And so, yeah, try to find those like one-off, opportunities, and do your bit of your background research as well. And yeah, I think you just have to like try, and you could do your environmental scan. You all are very astute researchers, I'm sure, right? Or maybe you didn't have to do research by this point. Do some research, right? But you can put that same effort, or some similar effort, and think about impact, right? Think about like, where am I needed? Really think about where am I needed. And I know I said don't think about starting other organizations, or maybe I scoffed at that idea because they're out there, but think about how you can help organizations improve their processes, or share best practices that are working for other organizations and spread them. How can you scale and spread good ideas that organizations are implementing to other organizations? Maybe that's your thing. Maybe you're like you'll be a consultant helping charities, taking that business consultant or management consultant mentality and supporting nonprofit organizations. Maybe that's your thing, right? So think about how can I scale and spread good ideas as well. That's something that you can think of too. Yeah, I think that's all I'll say. Any organizations you all volunteer with, like, that you can recommend? Do you have like a good experience anywhere?
Canada.
Islamic Relief Canada, great. I recommend them too. I mentioned them as well. Sorry, you were saying? NCCM, yeah. Yeah, I know you're involved, NCCM, because you sorry, because you were trying to be a part of a fellowship program, right? Yeah, that's where I remember you from. Did you have another organization? No? Local masjids, boom, there you go. Yeah.
I applied for charity. Humanity first.
Humanity first. So there's a lot of organizations, we named a few right now. Yeah, I think NCCM is doing a lot of great work right now too. Like they have like this Palestine table that they've implemented. There's also Justice for All as well. They also like are in there. NCCM is focused on domestic issues. Justice for All is focused on kind of like international issues. And yeah, there's MAC, Muslim Association of Canada, ICNA, yeah, there's just like there's so many, and yeah, I mean, as long as you have the intention, like that's like what it's all about.
You can also like go into like Islamic school, like Maryam thing is my sisters used to go there, Maryam Islamic School. I think they have few like locations now. And start from there too. They always need like volunteers to like also you can get an opportunity to educate younger kids at the same time.
Yeah, it's great. You're helping, kids, you're helping the next generation. I think that's great to always help the Islamic schools. Can always, improve our Islamic schools. And that's like one way to go about it. But yeah, and you can even be great business people. Maybe you have like a business idea that you can help charities and organizations as well. Like there's so many things. And I would say like get around people, like even just start a WhatsApp group with other like-minded people who want to do something. You don't know what you want to do. Like great ideas just start with people like 1 a.m. WhatsApp chats, right? Instead of sleeping and getting energy for the next day. Sometimes you have the best ideas at night. So yeah, just really get around people who have the same passion as you, and yeah.
Any thoughts, Sister Maryam?
I think you covered it all. Well said, mashallah.
Do you wanna engage or quickly add some? Just before we end, I just want to say
Once again, Jazakumullahu khair, everyone. Brother Fatah, Sister Maryam, may Allah bless all of you, everyone here. One quick reflection that I think, inshallah, can really spark for each and every one of us a way of leading this ummah, inshallah ta'ala, through humanitarian assistance and philanthropy, is being a part of your own circles. So, be it within the MSA or beyond, being a part of, let's say, OJ or whatever it may be, whatever initiative you have in mind, bring in a few brothers or sisters, inshallah, that are like-minded before the end of this year, before the end of the winter term, that inshallah will be able to, inshallah, spark initiatives with growing potential, inshallah. Yeah. That's right, exactly. Alhamdulillah, Alameen. So think about this, brothers and sisters. If you have an ambition, something that you want to start or grow with a brother or sister, or even a few brothers and sisters respectively, inshallah, that's where you guys can start. Because at the end of the day, the ummah is not going to rise unless we all rise. So let's, inshallah ta'ala, take this into mind. Once again, Jazakumullahu khair Katheera, Brother Fatah and Sister Maryam, for your beautiful words of wisdom, and everyone for your amazing insights, inshallah. Before I have officially ended, I want to know if Sister Umber would like, or anyone from what I still think of as the admin team, to share, or comms as well, to share, inshallah, please do so. Or anyone from the MSA. Or OGA as well. And any other thoughts? Jazakumullah khair, Sister Maryam, Sister Abrar, Sister Taiba, if you're still here, Jazakumullah khair. Anyone had anything else to say? Sister Shahira.
Amazing MCs have been thanking both of our guest speakers, but as an attendee, I learned so much from this session, and I wanted to thank both Sister Maryam and for Brother for coming out and for their time. And inshallah, we will take what we learned and put it to practice, and you'll see all of us in future positions of philanthropy and
Inshallah ta'ala. Yes. There's a comment. Jazakumullah khair. Ooh. Let's see if I can go down.
you can close the partition.
Inshallah, I mean, I don't have the mouse. I would love to click it.
Oh, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much. Subhanallah. I only caught the last hour, but still so much I learned from it. And something I really needed as a source of inspiration. MashaAllah. Let's make that hard every day.
Inshallah, it's past 8. Let's close.
Jazakumullah khair, brothers and sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless each and every one of you.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Jazakumullahu khair Katheera, everyone. May Allah bless you. May Allah allow us to be not replaced but used for this ummah holistically, collectively, and individually. Jazakumullahu khair. May Allah bless you all.
everyone.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Alaykum. Jazakumullah khair. Get home safely, everyone.
Inshallah.
Alaykum.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.